Welcome to Movies I Love with yours truly, Nomfanelo Malloy. So, today I will be discussing not one, but two movies, which are The Princess Diaries and The Princess Diaries 2 Royal Engagement. So, the first one came out back in 2001, and the second one came out back in 2004, which this year marks its 20th anniversary. So both films are directed by Gary Marshall and stars Anne Hathaway, Julie Andrews, and Hector Elizondo. Alrighty, so let's get into why I love these movies. So just first off, the movie, the first one in particular, is based off the book by Meg Cabot of the same name. There's a book series, The Princess Diaries, and I read like the books after seeing the first movie, and I say they did a pretty good job with the movies overall. Like I get that the books are its own thing essentially, but I find like with the movies, like more of the first one, they do a good job of trying to um, do its own thing essentially while respecting the source material, at least in my opinion. So, sticking with that, the idea I love, like the concept where essentially with the first one, we focus on a high school nerd essentially learning that she is a princess is interesting because in a way, it makes Mia to be the underdog of these films because essentially with the first movie, she's kind of treated like garbage by the other students, particularly with Lana, because it does not resemble the popular kids, essentially with her looks and all that stuff, and yeah, and the second one in a way kind of has the underdog story where she's facing the pressure from the people in Genovia, like, and while she's trying to figure out her next moves, like before the 30-day deadline and all that stuff. So I love how it has that both movies has like the underdog story to them, which makes Mia like easy to root for and fall in love with. Which brings me to my next point, Anne Hathaway. Anne Hathaway is fantastic as Mia in both of these movies. The first movie made me kind of just like fall in love with her because I loved, yeah, her comedic timing, especially like when Mia is displaying her klutzy moments, which are in full display in both movies. More of the first one than the second one. And also, too, it shows that she, does a good job with the dramatic parts as well, too. Like, whenever, like, Mia is feeling down and all that stuff, I thought Anne Hathaway did a good job with that. So, yeah, I would say, yeah, that's kudos to Anne Hathaway. Also, too, Julie Andrews is fantastic as well too as Clarice. Uh, because in my notes I wrote Julie Andrews is royalty because yeah, she has been acting for a long time, like with movies like The Sound of Music, Mary Poppins, and so forth. So I think like The Princess Diaries was the first time I've watched Julie Andrews when she's older and all that stuff because I used to recognize her before like with The Sound of Music and Mary Poppins when she was younger. So love to like with her and Anne Hathaway, they have amazing chemistry, and essentially with both characters they have this like mentor mentoree type of relationship. So I love, yeah, with Clarice always giving Mia advice and wisdom and so forth, even though she might be a bit hard on her at times, but at least she still cares for Mia at the end of the day. And the comedy works for me in both of the movies. Like, yes, it does have like the physical humor, and some of the jokes might be a bit outdated because they both came out in the 2000s. But for me, I still enjoy them. So, for example, like with the makeover scene in the first movie, for me, I still find it hilarious to this day, like how they executed that scene. The second one I would say is when Mia is practicing her archery. I thought that was hilarious with all like the bunch of arrows that she keeps missing, and which makes everyone essentially frightened of her. um, Also, too, yeah, I want to point out is the soundtrack is great for both movies. It's very 2000s, very reminiscent of the time. I think most of the singers that they feature in the soundtracks, I'm not really either like I'm not too like familiar with, or is one of those acts that you're kind of familiar with. Not too sure, but yeah, the soundtracks for both movies are great. I would say for the first one, if I had to choose the one song, obviously "Miracles" Happen by Myra is great. I just downloaded that recently off of Apple Music. Listened to, and the second one, obviously Kelly Clarkson's "Breakaway," of course, but also too Lindsay Lohan with her song "I Decide." That's cool. So I love how like with both soundtracks they have sort of like the anthem songs to essentially encourage people not to give up and all that stuff while being fun at the same time too with some of the other selections. And also too, I find yeah this interesting like rewatching these movies now, like how some of the actors that are familiar appeared younger here. So, for example, in the first movie, Mandy Moore, she played Lana, the villain in this movie. So. In a way, is kind of different, like watching her in this movie because of with her work today being kind of different with This Is Us and so forth. And in a way, it kind of misses, it made me miss Mandy Moore, like when she was singing mostly at the time. Because I remember, yeah, like at the time she did a lot of like the pop music and so forth. I believe she still puts out music now, but I imagine it's different compared to her work in the 90s and 2000s. And with the second movie, like Chris Pine, obviously as Nick Devereaux in this movie, the love interest. And I think, yeah, that this was my first Chris Pine movie that I saw. So, yeah, I thought he did a great job in this one as well, too. And of course, he still does great work today. And I see he's trying to become a filmmaker now, which is great for him. So yes, it's always interesting, like when you're watching throwback movies, how how long it has been since you've seen someone in their prominent work and all that stuff. Now let's get on to the critiques I have. So I'm going to be focusing more on the second one because I didn't really had a lot of issues with the first movie. I think like if you've read the books, I'm sure some people would note the notable changes, such as Mia's father was more prominent in the books, but in the movie, the father passed away. I think it was a car accident or something like that. So yeah, I wasn't too like against it because because I first saw the movie and then reading the book, I'm like, oh, that's different. And then also too with Clarice's characterization, the book is a bit different because I find with Clarice is a bit more harsh in the book compared to how she is in the movie. But I wasn't too nitpicky on that. But like the second movie was not based off the book; it was essentially its own thing per se. I wasn't too mad of it at the time, but just I don't know. Maybe a part of me just felt like they could have adapted one of the books, but I get maybe it wasn't feasible because I believe the actor that plays Michael in the first book. He did not reprise his role in the second movie because he was busy touring and doing other commitments at the time. So I get why they had to like pivot away from the books, but I guess it is what it is at this point. But back to the second movie. Um, the whole notion of that Mia has to marry someone within 30 days or forfeit the throne, all that stuff for me, it's just ridiculous. Especially how they decided to end up where essentially Mia's like, I'm not marrying anyone, essentially. And then everyone is like, okay. So I just felt like that whole subplot with her forcing to marry someone could have just been removed completely. Just focus on Mia like trying to like sell into her role as the princess and all that stuff, and there could still be like the naysayers like trying to doubt her because she's not like a she wasn't born and raised in Genovia and all that stuff. So yeah, I think like if they took away the whole marriage thing from the second movie, I think it could have worked. But but yeah, it's just for me that whole plot was just ridiculous. Also, too, I would say I find this second movie was trying to rehash the first movie. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but for me as a viewer, I felt like it was a bit forced. Like, for example, in the first movie, when Mia learns, oh, she's a princess, her reaction is, shut up. And then in the second movie, when Clarice learns that Mia has to marry someone, I think she learns that in the parliament scene, Clarice is like, shut up. I'm just like, uh, why are we doing this? It's like, why? Oh my goodness. So, and also to, yeah, the makeover scene with the second one, I'm just like, no, why are we trying to rehash this? It's like, it just did not work for me whenever they tried to do the whole callbacks and all that stuff. Um, and I felt with the second one, I don't know, that I felt like it was too soon for Mia to become queen because I felt like they could have just focused on her being a princess. Because with the first one is her becoming the princess, and it would have been nice for her to actually see her as a princess and all that stuff. But I guess it is what it is. Like probably because of given the circumstance what happened while working on this movie. But I just felt like she could have been the princess throughout the whole movie, then her becoming queen and all that stuff. So, so I guess since after the second movie came out, third movie has been in the works for quite some time. Um, Back in April earlier this year, I think Anne Hathaway during an interview mentioned that the sequel is in a good place, which I don't know what that means. Maybe like they are making progress in terms of what direction to take for the sequel. I don't know. Um, but I just wondered though, since if we are following what happened in the second movie with Mia, now Queen Mia, essentially, is the movie going to be called The Queen Diaries? Because it wouldn't make sense to call it The Princess Diaries 3 if Mia is still a queen at this point. So I hope that's something they're considering. So we don't know for sure at this point what's going to be the plot. I don't know if we're up to me. I think it would be cool to tackle her maybe like missing her normal life compared to her royal life. Essentially, her being a queen and like dealing like with all the headaches from Parliament and also from the public and all that stuff. So maybe that's something that could be explored. They could probably like get influenced with the Meghan Markle situation, where I think the short answer for that is that essentially she married Prince Harry, became a princess. I guess they labeled as a duchess or something like that. And then at some point, she decided to forfeit the title because of all like the public pressure, and I suppose, and whatever was happening behind the scenes. So maybe they could take influence from that. Maybe not directly, but maybe that's a good starting point. Um, I would love for Michael to come back in this movie because I know, like with the books, if you've read the books, um, Michael essentially is like the love interest for Mia, and they essentially, I believe, in one of the books, they do get married and all that stuff. So I think, yeah, hopefully he could come back. Um, or like they could still have, yeah, Chris Pine on board, since essentially at the end of the second movie, like him and Mia are a couple, I suppose. I don't know if it's official, but they do admit their love for each other at the end of that movie. So, or perhaps maybe like with this third movie, with Devereaux and Mia, like they have their thing, and then somehow Michael gets brought into the picture. Maybe they could be competing for Mia's attention and all that stuff. So that would be fun to see. But regardless, I am down with the third movie. So, but hopefully it gets put out in theaters, and then straight to streaming or VOD. There's that. So that's pretty much my thoughts on the Princess Diaries. So I would love to know, what do you guys think about these movies? Do you have a favorite scene or favorite aspect from those movies? Let me know in the comment section. So also too, you could, if you want to follow me on social media, you could check out my links in the description. Also too, if you want to support the channel, you can visit my Buy Me a Coffee link where you could donate or join my membership. So I want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope to see you in the next one.